And we're continuing on with Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play, catching a glimpse of God as mother. And it's a fairly important study. I know it has been for me, because I've been quite surprised over the last, I don't know how many years, that I've sort of viewed God as my mother. What a different aspect that has brought to my spiritual life, and what would I say, a very confirming lesson in grace. Somehow there's something about motherhood that is so disarming in its ideal. I understand that there's there's mean mothers as well out there, but just this notion of God as mother and this incredible boundlessness that is inherent in that love, in that acceptance, in being the child of the mother, the child of the divine. And it's both biological, and I think it's spiritual also. The power of that. We live within the mother. This manifested world is all the divine mother, and somehow I don't have to be convinced about a mother's love for me. That somehow that I know. And I think it's the biological part that I was my mother. I was in her body for 9 months of my life, my first 9 months of my life, and that intimacy, that bond, uh, I think is unique and powerful, and is the root, I think, of why women have been given so much of the responsibility of the family and of creating the home. And um, I think that that's inherently a beautiful ideal, a wonderful thing. And I've used it a great deal for my spiritual growth. And so to be able to approach God as mother um, is something that Vivekananda thought that was very necessary for us in the West. He said jokingly, kind of tongue in cheek sort of way, that, the West has suffered long enough under the father. It's time to go find some heart, some sweetness in the mother. And in some regards, I really agree with that. I think that you can see that even if you just look at the condition of things these days. So we've been looking at Sri Sharda and how she considers every single person in the universe, every living being, uh, not even just living beings. I mean, she defended brooms, she defended cats, she defended chairs. I mean, she saw everything as being her own responsibility, her to love and to nurture and to take care of. And I was glancing through what we've been reading about her in the last few days, last few weeks, and I was thinking, wow, what in one sense, what a suffering she has to go through, because here she is, an absolute renunciate. You know, uh, she she gave everything to us. There was nothing that she held back. She would give everything to us and does give everything to us for our support. And you look at the questions that people go to her with, and the problems that they go to her with, and they all involve all the stuff that she renounced. My problems with my wife, my problems with my kids, my problems with, the job, money, family, advancement, success for my family, all these things, wanting blessings in this, and, please pray for me in this. And I just thought how amazing she must have been to be able to tread that path, of being able to listen with compassion and love toward all these things that for her were just matters of renunciation. For her to really put herself in a position as the mother to endure our problems, our made up problems, to sit and listen to these troubles all day long, every day, and to bless these people over and over and over again. Uh, and to not lose that heart, to never roll her eyes, to never dismiss someone, but how she threw herself into it. It just really shows her renunciation really ran deep, really had no limit to it. So we're going to start with a section today on page 576 called Family Problems. And it starts off with one of the most obvious statements in the world: a perfect marriage is rare in this world. A perfect anything is rare in this world. That's one of the things that's interested me a great deal, or at least caught my attention, is the fact that ideals do not exist in this material world. Everything has a compromise to it. Everything has a touch of impurity in it, as Ramakrishna says. That is somehow necessary for manifestation. That when things are in perfect balance and perfect harmony, there's no manifestation, because there's nothing to move, nothing to change, nothing to improve. And so this notion of this lack of anything that's perfect in the world, and yet it's a concept that we're constantly around, which is very interesting to me. We don't ever think about fruits that are not available. We don't sit and contemplate different types of edible things that don't exist. And yet with perfection, seeing it existing nowhere, we think of it constantly. We aim for it constantly. We hold it as an ideal. That's fascinating to me. I don't know what I'm going to do with that fascination, but that certainly has been something that's growing in my mind, thinking, what an interesting situation that we are so comfortable with these terms of things that do not exist, and we never worry about the fact that they don't exist. That these ideals, these perfect ideals, are only those things that we call perfect, are just something that has approached the ideal very closely, but nothing crosses and becomes that, or is that ideal. So a perfect marriage is rare in this world. A married couple who were longtime devotees of Ramakrishna quarreled from time to time. It is said that the master tried to help them reconcile their differences. After the master's passing away, the mother became the couple's mediator. One morning, the husband beat his wife badly, and she took refuge with the mother in Udbodhan house. Holy Mother told her attendants to inform her as soon as the woman's husband came. 4 days passed, but the husband did not show up. He sent his second son to bring his mother home, but the Holy Mother would not let her go. Finally, one evening, the husband came himself, and Mother summoned him upstairs. She told him, through an attendant, "You are an old man now. Is this kind of behavior seemly? Your eldest son now has 3 degrees and may be married soon. Your daughter-in-law will inherit this kind of abuse. Please don't abuse your wife anymore. Promise?" The husband agreed to follow the mother's advice. She further said, "Your wife is a good-natured woman. Do not hurt her. Does she do anything for herself? Her only shortcoming is that she gives away lavishly. What to do? Please take good care of her." The couple returned home, and from then on, there were no more quarrels. That right there is a very important statement, that there were no more quarrels. Do you know how that happens? And this is going to ping me even to say this, because I'm not the example of this, but that level of integrity, that level of practice, somebody whose words, whose thoughts, and whose actions are absolutely in accord with one another, that there is no hypocrisy, there is no thread of desire sticking out. That kind of person can have this kind of effect, where just in a few sentences of a conversation with an abusive husband, the point can be made and hit the target so sweetly and so perfectly that the quarrels cease and the woman is never beaten again by an abusive husband. And this is why, and I say this for an odd reason, actually, that comes in my mind here, in the sense that this is also why we practice, right? We are born to manifest our divine nature, and our divine nature is healing by nature. It's restorative by nature. It's inspiring by nature. And if we have lukewarm practices, or if we give ourselves uh, too many permissions, round the edges to make life easier for ourselves, just a bit too much, that you sacrifice your ability to really help. You sacrifice your ability to really serve in this way, to really be a light to the world. It's not something that can be faked. It's not something where we can convince somebody that we're a certain type of person, and then that will be fine. We'll be able to help them in their life. We'll be able to direct them in their life. That's not the case. If there is any hypocrisy in you, it is a compromise of your power, of your divine right, your heir to the love and the wisdom and the compassion of God. And so this is something for us to really think about, also just as an encouragement. We don't certainly don't do our practice for reasons like that. We do it for love and for love alone. But I'm drawing this point because in this world, religion has had a lot of struggles, and lots of people have lots of struggles with religion. And my understanding and my response to it is that I have to uh, guard my life. I have to watch my private world. That things that are not helpful to my spiritual nature, to my divine nature, get weeded out, absolutely, and to maintain a and I think this is where I feel like I need the work. It's like, you've been doing your practice. I've been being a monk for 26 years, and you sort of run into rhythm and to a way of being that is okay. It's fine. You're doing your practice, this and that, but you lose that star in your eyes, and you start going on and just letting life be what it is, because it's sort of become that. But in our spiritual life, we're new at every moment. We're absolutely free in every moment. We have the permission of the divine to drop our story at every moment, to drop our ego. We have the promise of a grace, an infinite grace that will allow us to set down everything at any moment, and to have full confidence in the presence of the divine, which what that is such an amazing, amazing gift that we have. And to let that really drip into our deepest parts of the inner world, so that we can love people this way, in the way that the mother loves, a love that actually makes a difference, that actually can turn an abusive husband into a loving husband, that can turn a rebellious child into a loving child, that can turn a selfish woman into a saint. That this is what we get to spend time with. This is what we get to do. And I feel like right now in myself, a real sense of renewal and a need for a deeper renewal around this, so that we can be touched again, so that we can see Mother for the first time again. We can see Ramakrishna, we can see Jesus, we can see Buddha for the first time again, and see and experience the shock of a perfect and pure love and its effect on a life.
Isn't that, Swamiji, when you are realized, then
Uh,
you.
in its perfection, it's when we're realized, but on our way to being realized, it grows ever increasingly stronger. So I mean, if you take the real world example, like, swamis, we have those swamis that we consider greats. Those are the ones that have, taken it to realization or taken it very far along. But we also have swamis that have changed our lives, who never, became that, as far as we know. So it's really part and parcel of the journey. But it's the gift that we have to give, not to just people, but to ourselves. And that inner integrity is not a private thing. It's not just for you and for your own salvation. That's where the other half of the motto of the Ramakrishna order comes from, for the good of the world, right? That practice of integrity within is not just for your own realization. It's absolutely necessary for your realization, right? But it's also necessary for the good of the world. Because someone who knows something and is true to it, when they speak of it, their words carry a power and an authority and a depth that is able to change and able to have its effect, to hit its target squarely. Change your word, change your world. Words have great power. Once a blind man was seated on the sidewalk with a placard that read, "I'm blind, please help." It was seldom that anyone put a coin into his tin can. Then one woman, on her way to work, stopped and wrote on the opposite side of the placard with a marker, "It's a beautiful day, but I can't see it." The blind man felt the woman's shoe before she left. Soon, many passers-by began to drop coins into his container. The blind man heard those sounds and knew that it was full. At the end of the day, the woman returned and stood before the blind man. The blind man touched her shoe and recognized her. He asked, "What did you write?" The woman replied, "I wrote the same thing in different words." Right, right. Beautiful story there. Beautiful. Sarajubala Sen wrote, "Late one evening, a beggar was heard calling out in the lane. He was crying, 'Radha Govinda, O Mother Nandarani, please be kind to the blind.' When she heard his voice, the mother said, 'This beggar passes through the lane almost every night. At first he cried, O mother, please be kind to the blind.' But Golap one day rightly said to him, 'Please utter the name of Radha Krishna, names of God. This will serve the purpose of this will serve the double purpose of uttering the holy name and also reminding the householders of God. Otherwise, day and night you will think only of your blindness.' Since then, the blind man, while passing through this lane, shouts the name of God. Gulab gave him a piece of cloth. He also gets alms in other forms." Bhumhananda recalled, "In Udbodhan house one day, Golap Ma scolded a maidservant and then came upstairs. When Holy Mother heard her loud voice, she inquired, 'Golap, what happened?' Golap Ma replied, 'Mother, you do not see any fault in others, so it is fruitless to say anything to you.'" The mother said in a sweet and soft voice, "Golap, is there any dearth of people in this world who see faults in others? If I do not see their faults, will the world stop functioning?" "Mother, this is your house," Golap responded. "If you say something, they will listen, but who is going to listen to me?"
Wouldn't that be great, Swami, if we could not see faults in others?
Indeed. And it's possible. Mother used to see faults all the time in others. She used to say that when she was younger, that she constantly saw faults in others, and she really begged the master to free her from that fault. And so it was a part of her practice and an answer to her prayer that she was able to say this, because by the end of her life, she says it again and again, that she's not only does she not see the faults of others, but that she has become unable to see the faults in others. Just a marvelous transformation. The mother gravely replied, "This house belongs to my children. The master got it for them so that they could live here. Well, why don't you go to Sharadananda, and say whatever you have to say?" Golap Ma remained silent. Compassion for the poor. It was the 30th of September, 1918, Maha Ashtami, the second day of Durga Puja. Many devotees assembled in Udbodhan house to pay their respects to the Holy Mother. Sarajubala Sen recorded, "It was the time of the noonday worship when a party of 3 men and 3 women from a distant part of the country came to pay their respects to Holy Mother. They were very poor, all their possessions consisting of 1 piece of cloth each. They had begged for their passage money to Calcutta. One of the party, a man, was having a private talk with the mother. There seemed to be no end to the conversation. The time for the noon food offering was passing, and Mother was supposed to offer it. The mother's attendants became annoyed. One of them said to the devotee in unmistakable language, "If you have anything more to say, you better go downstairs and talk to the monks." But Mother said firmly, "It does not matter if it gets late. I must hear what they have to say." She continued to listen to him with great patience. In a whisper, she gave him some instructions. Then she sent for his wife as well. We inferred that they must have been experiencing something in a dream. Later on, we came to learn that they had received a sacred mantra in a dream. After about an hour, they took prasad and left. The mother said, "Alas, they are very poor. They have come here with a great hardship." It's important, there's a few times when you read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, there's a few times where the devotees get annoyed with different individuals. Of course, the most obvious one was Girish Ghosh, who was an alcoholic and would show up drunk at the master's room and cause troubles, and there the devotees also called out to Ramakrishna, "Why do you let that drunkard in here like this? He abuses you. And so he's going to drive the devotees away." you know? And Ramakrishna scolds them and says, "Oh, you can see nothing. You do not see what I see." And what Ramakrishna saw was the best in everyone, just what Mother was just talking about. Ramakrishna saw the best and lived a life where love is, in fact, the one most important thing. And so this is very important for us to watch our behaviors with others when we get annoyed, when we get impatient, when we feel like somebody is taking advantage of us or, annoying us in some weird way. It doesn't take much for that to happen to us. And just to take example from Mother here, and to remember there are things that are most important, and love is that one most important thing. And so every situation should be handled with love as its primary identity. Even if you are moving on somebody, somebody who's been talking to you a little bit too long, which does happen, but you do it out of love for them. You don't do it out of wanting to get rid of them or out of being annoyed by them or out of being indignant because they're taking your time. It's always very important to keep love at the forefront of our mind. This is why we meditate, and this is why we pray, and this is why we constantly remember the presence. Because what is that presence? It is love. It is divine love. And so we do our practice so that love moves to the forefront, so that it is, without a doubt, the one most important thing in our life, and that people will know us for that, because that is the purpose of life, to express a pure and perfect love without a limit, without a restriction. There is a saying, the measure of love is compassion. The measure of compassion is kindness. Many people come to the mother for peace and consolation. In 1913, a middle-aged man came to the mother with his grief-stricken daughter who was 17 years old. He said, "Mother, this is my daughter. She had a baby girl who died this morning. She is overcome with grief, so I have brought her to you for consolation." Holy Mother asked the girl to come near her, but when the girl extended her hand to touch the mother's feet, the mother remarked, "How can you touch me? You are now in a period of mourning." The footnote says, according to the Hindu custom, a mourning period continues for 11 days. During that period, no one is supposed to perform any ritual or touch a deity. You are now in the period of mourning. At this, the girl's sad face became even more gloomy. She drew back and felt helpless. Seeing her sorrowful face, the mother exclaimed with great empathy, "Oh, my child, you are grief-stricken have come to me for solace, and I hurt you. Set aside that custom, my child. Bow down and touch my feet." She moved close to the girl, who then fell at the mother's feet, crying. Holy Mother touched her head and blessed her. She again consoled her, saying, "Have devotion for the Master." Please open your heart to him whenever you have any pain or any suffering. She continued, Ah, she has just gotten a shock. Is it possible for her to be calm today? The girl's father was standing near the door. After a while, the father and the daughter gathered themselves to some extent, bowed down to the mother, and left. You see another example. It's not the rules that are important. It's the love that's important. And it is time. There are times when it's appropriate to set aside the rules, to set aside the customs. That love can be demonstrated, that grace can be shown. So we should remember that, when we're working in the puja kitchen, that some new person breaks a rule. We shouldn't run over with glee because we get to tell them how to do it right? Probably best to overlook it the first few times and maybe just gently mention something later on when it's not loaded, when doesn't have any energy around it. But this is the way to watch ourselves. Watch the way that you live. I love this little statement that he said, the measure of love is compassion. Right? So if you're full of love, you're by nature full of compassion. And what does that mean? The measure of compassion is kindness. So you're full of kindness. Your acts are kind, right? And they're seen as kind. Actresses visit Udbodhan house. As the sun shines on everything equally, so God's love flows evenly toward the saints and the sinners. This is something, always to keep in mind. That God's love is not conditional. It's a very important thing to remember, because it is the one piece of confidence that we'll need, when we approach God, when we approach the divine directly at some point. We're going to need that confidence, and that confidence can never come from our own doing, right? Because we don't live in the land of ideals, right? And so we have to find that confidence elsewhere, and that confidence elsewhere is based on the nature of our existence, the fact that we are the image of God, that God has allowed us to be one with her in order to have that freedom, in order to have that divine relationship, a relationship that can be of any color, whatever is needful. As the sun shines on everything equally, so God's love flows evenly toward saints and sinners. Krishna says in the Gita, I am the same toward all beings. Wow, there's something to write down and remember. I am the same toward all beings. To me, there is none hateful or dear. Even the most sinful man, if he worships me with unswerving devotion, must be regarded as righteous, for he has formed the right resolution. He soon becomes righteous and attains eternal peace. Proclaim it boldly, O son of Kunti, that my devotee never perishes. Right. This is where that quality of love always hopes, love always believes, love always trusts. So these are the nature of God. He always believes you. You may not even believe your own words. God believes you. God trusts you. You may not even trust yourself at this point, but the divine trusts you. Right? You see how we move our sense of self out of our doership, out of our story, out of our ego, and into that which does not change, the grace of God, the love of God, the unconditioned nature of that love and that presence, the immortality, the freedom. All of these things, we move our sense of self out of the stories of ego and into the root that never changes. And that's where we find our strength. That is strength itself. Ramakrishna told his devotees, all the sins of the body fly away if one chants the name of God and sings his glories. The birds of sin dwell in the tree of the body. Singing the name of God is like clapping your hands. As at a clap of the hands, the birds in the tree fly away. So do our sins disappear at the chanting of God's name and glories. So there's your secret. This is how you overcome those things that are difficult to overcome, by your commitment to chanting the names of God, by your commitment to doing the practice, and above all, by your commitment to keep getting up and trying again, having that sort of tenacity, because that's what he's talking about up here, where he says, even the most sinful man, if he worships me with unswerving devotion, right? So you don't let your conditions, your inner conditions, affect your devotion toward God. That means if you're having a selfish day, you don't avoid the shrine. If you're being lazy, you don't avoid your practice, right? You stick to the essentials, stick to the important things, no matter what condition you're in. And that will bring you home. That will allow that manifestation of your divine nature within you. What a reassuring message. Tara Sundari and Tinkari, two superstars of the Calcutta theater, had heard Ramakrishna's message. Though the two actresses had not met Ramakrishna, they had heard his message through Girish Chandra Ghosh, their director and mentor. Later, they visited Holy Mother at Udbodhan House and received her blessing. One's birth is in the hands of providence, but one's karma is one's own responsibility. These actresses were born in the red light district of Calcutta and did not know who their fathers were. Their mothers were active in the world's most ancient profession. They were prostitutes, is what he's saying. Their mothers were active in the world's ancient profession, and they grew up in misery and poverty. Orthodox society shunned them. They were not even allowed a formal education. But the acting talent of Tara Sundari and Tinkari enabled them to overcome all of these obstacles. Their self-effort, their sincerity, their patience and perseverance, their passion and ambition led them to the pinnacle of success in life. A blazing fire cannot be hidden, nor can any great talent. Tara Sundari and Tinkari sometimes visited Holy Mother at Udbodhan House, but they never entered the mother's room, where the master's shrine was located. Instead, they bowed down to the master and Holy Mother from outside the door. Holy Mother loved them and always asked them to stay for lunch. Afterward, she would give them each a betel roll. One day after they left, the mother remarked, "These girls have genuine devotion. Whenever they call on God, they do it with one-pointed minds." During Holy Mother's last illness, Tara Sundari visited her quite often. Swami Ishanananda recalled, One day at noon, Tara Sundari, the famous actress of the Star Theater, came to visit Holy Mother. Mother's body was very weak, so she was lying on the floor of her room surrounded by some women. Tara bowed down to her and sat down outside her door. She spoke to the mother softly and with great reverence. Mother said, "You act very well in the theater. It is hard to recognize you when you appear on the stage with your costume and makeup. Why don't you recite something for us?" Tara sometimes acted in the role of a man. She saluted the mother with folded hands and then recited a part of the heroic role of Prabir in the play Prabir Arjun, actually Jana. Afterwards, the mother said to her, "My child, come another day." Tara again saluted the mother and left with some prasad in hand. Another afternoon, Tara unexpectedly arrived in a taxi and brought 4 or 5 baskets of gifts: sweets, curd, mangosteens, oranges, bananas, grapes, pomegranates, pineapples, and other fruit, as well as flowers and bouquets of tuberoses, saris for mother, Radu, Maku, and Nalini, and woolen shoes for Radu's and Maku's children. Mother had a slight fever and she was in bed. Tara bowed down to her from outside the door. Mother asked me to put the gifts in the middle room. When Tara left with some prasad, Mother asked me to distribute the things of to Ratu, Maku, and the other workers of the household. You know, it's amazing. Look at the humility of Tara. You know, she doesn't doubt the grace of Mother, but she's well aware of her shortcomings. She's well aware of her impurities, but she doesn't let that stop her devotion. You know, she stays outside that door, which is amazing to me, and makes these offerings and shares these things with the Mother. Her confidence is not uh, affected. You know, she has this faith in God, this faith in Mother's grace, this faith in that relationship with the Divine Mother. But she also realizes her own situation, you know, and doesn't feel bad about it, doesn't feel guilt about it, doesn't let it drive a wedge between her, but it does also make her keep a distance out of respect for Mother's purity, for Mother's righteousness, you know, for Mother's whatever she may be seeing in that sense. But I love the fact that she has taken her condition and not judged herself, but has remained humble and has not doubted the love of God, has not doubted the grace of the Divine Mother, you know, but has used it to forge a very sweet and respectful devotion, a very sweet and humble approach to God. And even in that inspiration, she brings all these gifts to the devotees, you know. Sometimes an exciting and glamorous life is also exhausting and stressful. To refresh herself, Tara Sundari often visited Holy Mother or the Master's disciple. Swami Parameshananda recalled, One afternoon at 2 o'clock, Tara Sundari came to Swami Sharadananda at Udbodhan House. She brought a large quantity of sweets and fruit to offer to the master, and I put them in the storeroom and gave her a small carpet on which to sit on the upper floor near the steps. She pushed away the seat and sat on the bare floor. Swami Sharadananda was then resting, and so I asked her to wait. I had seen Girish's play Prafula in the Star Theater, and I told her that I had seen her performance in that play. Tara replied, Swami, I am glad that you enjoyed the women's performances at the play. They act in such a way that the audience feels that they are like goddesses. You are a young monk, so you don't know what a sinful life they have led. As they act, tears flow through one eye and a smile shines through the other. I asked, why don't you recite something for us? Tara then began to recite some lines from a tragedy, and tears trickled from her eyes. Her sari even became wet. She then recited a portion of the title role from Girish's play Jana. When Arjuna killed Jana's son, Prabir, in battle, her heart was devastated by grief, and she cried profusely. Afterward, Jana wanted to take revenge. Like the Greek goddess Nemesis, she roared and burst into loud laughter. The whole house reverberated with the sound of that laughter. Thus, Tara demonstrated how actresses can cry and laugh alternatively. You know, I love that image, you know, that an actress, they can know their true condition and that causes a tear, but from the other eye, they can laugh, you know, because there's still a great deal to be glad about, to love about. And this is how we struggle. we carry on in our practices, not by being perfect and then being happy and being joyful, but doing our practice and knowing that our joy comes from grace, our joy comes from love. And in that we find our joy. But then we can also have that deep wound, that deep pain inside when we have to face the reality of not being, perfect, not being what we hope or what we want, or what we're inspired to be. But to do the play anyway, and do our part well, and carry it forward, and know that in the end, Mother will make something beautiful out of us. So thus Tara demonstrated how actresses can cry and laugh alternately. When Swami Sharadananda heard the noise, he got up and washed his face in the bathroom to get ready to receive his visitors. When I entered his room, he asked, "Who has come?" I told him that it was the actress Tara and recounted my conversation with her. The Swami then said to me, "Well, you have learned a wonderful lesson from her." He then instructed me to send Tara's offerings of fruits and sweets to the Kali temple. I took Tara to Swami Sharadananda. She bowed down to him and sat near the threshold of his room. Swami Sharadananda always saluted women by bowing his head. When they began to talk, I left the room. Girish inspired many actors and actresses and told them about Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and the disciples of the Master. Tinkari met Holy Mother for the first time when she went with Tara Sundari to Udbodhan House in Calcutta. Holy Mother had seen Tinkari perform in Vilmwa Mangal, Thakur. Ashutosh Mitra recalled the visit. Tinkari, the famous actress, came to visit Holy Mother, and Sister Lakshmi asked her to sing a song. Tinkari said hesitatingly, "What kind of song shall I sing for you?" Holy Mother replied, "It will be wonderful if you sing that song of Pagalini from Vilwa Mangal." Tinkari had performed in that role. She got ready to sing. It was 9:30. We were busy working downstairs. Suddenly, we heard Tinkari's sweet and melodious voice singing to the Chayanat tune. "Krishna travels holding my hand." We stopped our work and went upstairs to listen to her sing. Sharad Maharaj was writing something. He dropped his pen and became absorbed in the music. Yogan Ma was cutting vegetables. She also went upstairs. The cook and the servants also stopped what they were doing and went upstairs to listen to the song. When I went upstairs, I noticed that Holy Mother had finished her worship and was listening to the song, sitting on the floor. Tinkari sat on the little veranda near the entrance to the Master's shrine. We felt that her overflowing devotion was reverberating through the entire house through her singing. The words were like this: "Krishna travels holding my hand. Wherever I go, he follows me, even if I don't ask him to." Holy Mother looked at the Master's photo and then closed her eyes. After a while, she opened her eyes, but we felt that she was indrawn. Her eyes were open, but she was not seeing anything. Tinkari continued, "He wipes my face with great care and intently looks at my face. When I smile, he smiles, and when I cry, he cries. How lovingly he takes care of me." The whole house was completely still, as if no one was there. Everyone was overwhelmed and absorbed in the exalted mood. Was it the influence of Tinkari's singing or Holy Mother's spiritual power? Who could say? Tinkari finished the last lines of the song. "So I came to know who says that the Precious One does not exist. Come, see for yourself whether it is true or false. He is talking to me with great love." Holy Mother expressed in an ecstatic mood, "Ah, ah." Tinkari finished her singing. Holy Mother remained in that condition for a while, and silence prevailed. Then she wiped her eyes and said to Tinkari, "What a beautiful song you have sung for me today, my child." All right, we'll stop there for today.